Hello, I'm Tai Fujimura. I'm the founder of Cantilever. We are a remote web design and development team with staff across the US and Canada, and we get to make websites for all sorts of amazing clients. So what I'm going to show you today is a project that we just released, which is called Conversations with Tyler. So let's dig in. This is the site. I'm going to show you a fresh reload because it gives you kind of a different perspective on what you see when you load the page. Everything comes in with a nice animation there. Conversations with Tyler is a podcast which is produced by the Mercatus Center, which is an organization partnered with George Mason University that exists to promote unique and new ideas about markets and economics, but also the broader world. And Conversations with Tyler is one of their efforts at doing that, where they bring together an economist, Tyler Cowen, with thinkers from a variety of different fields, often very unique and interesting people, to dialogue with Tyler about their own world and what they're expert at, but also how that relates to other fields of inquiry. The branding work for the podcast was done recently by our friends at Ad Nauseam, and it was really great to have a lot of really rich, vivid brand imagery to use when we started to build the site. And our job with the site was to take a lot of the great work that they had done and convert that into a digital product. So let me give you the quick tour. What we decided early on with the client was that because it's a podcast, ultimately what we want the user to do on the website is leave. We want the user to go click into iTunes, click into the Google Podcast Player, subscribe to the show, and move on. So what we decided to do is a site that's really focused around one page. There are other pages within the site that are sort of incidental, but the main action occurs on this homepage. And we decided to devote a lot of time to making this homepage really unique and special and fun. The branding is very much in that vein, and so we thought it was a worthy representation of the brand to find some new things in the design space that could really stand out. So one of the first things you'll notice here is that as you hit the page, it looks like there's kind of a static background, but once you start scrolling down, the background kind of splits into two parts, and you realize that it's actually two different layers, but the shade isn't on top of everything, the shade's just behind the frame. So we like this effect. It's kind of trippy and unique and unexpected, especially as you get further down the page. Once you get to the very end of the page, you'll notice, first of all, content kind of fades in from the bottom, but also once we reach the end of the hero area, the hero kind of just transforms into the header, and then it sticks at the top of the page. And that's actually the same element that sticks there. As I mentioned, things kind of fade in as you scroll up, so this is an effect that we really like. It creates a sense of journeying through the site and progression. And it just gives more visual interest and weight to each element within the layout. The layout itself of this page is very unique, sort of cantilevered, if you will. Pieces that fit together seemingly in a hodgepodge, but underlying that hodgepodge is a very rigid and enforced grid system. So at the various responsive breakpoints, different screen sizes, we have very clear instructions for each of the pieces of content as to where they should be going. Here in this latest episodes area, traditionally on a podcast website you can play the full episodes, but we decided that we really want users to be going off to their own podcast platform and subscribing there. So what we decided to do was actually push people off-site. In the case of a desktop device, it pushes you off to Medium, where they have a transcript and you can listen to the episode. In other cases, if you're on an Apple device, it'll send you to Apple Podcasts, etc. And on the site itself, we decided to just provide an episode highlights clip. So this is a small, short bit of audio.
So some people in Silicon Valley will argue.
And that runs for about 3 or 4 minutes, and it gives you a sense of what was in the episode without being the full episode. Because, as I mentioned, we don't want people to be on the site for 60 minutes listening to the show. We'd rather they subscribe and check it out there. Within this episode section, we also have a featured section, which shows some of the great folks that they've had on. This gives me an opportunity to show some of the interactions that we have here. You notice probably this card hover effect, which is pretty neat. We also have this little effect with these secondary CTAs where they seem to leap off of a virtual stage, and we really like the idea that these are 2D shapes here, these little slivers, but when you put a name on top of them, they start to look like a 3D object. We like that sense of disorientation. Scrolling down the page, we have some other cards for upcoming shows, and you can click through to RSVP for those shows. But as we get down the page, you might have noticed the backgrounds start to kind of shift and shimmer as you scroll down, and it's a very unique effect. We have these shapes in the background which happen to revolve around a common center, so they always kind of look aligned in the middle, but as you scroll up and down, we're rotating them in the background, so the user gets this sense of sort of like zooming into a vortex. And then finally, it's a pretty short page. We have a little unit about Mercatus Center and a newsletter sign up here. So this is the experience that we crafted for Conversations with Tyler to give people a sense of what the show is all about and what it's like, both through description and through the act of using the site. This is the kind of project that we absolutely love, where there's an amazing brand to work with and so much cool, rich content, and we just get to kind of play with it and have fun. Thank you very much for watching.